This is going to be a hopefully brief video to let you know what the requirements are, or at least I should say what the expectations are for your journals in Math for the Inquiring Mind. Journals are due every week, or I'm sorry, for every module, and they're a very important part of the modules for several reasons. I'll go over some of those reasons in this little video, but the main idea is that it shows me what you've learned, and it shows me how you've learned it, and it shows me that you've learned it by the way that you write your journals. They are basically the replacement for the traditional classroom model where there's a teacher in a room or a professor and there are students in the room and the professor can monitor the students and see that they're working. This is your way to show me that you're working online by providing me with details. So this video is intended to give you an idea of what the requirements are so you're turning in good journals, getting the highest grade that you can, and also getting the most out of them, getting some value out of them. The model that we use for this class for journaling is the SII model, we're going to call it. That's strengths, areas for improvement, and insight. If you want more on what this means, you can look up page 183 in the Foundations of Learning textbook, although I think you can kind of figure it out. It's self-explanatory what kind of content I want in these journals. Strengths, areas for improvement, and insight. You'll see that a lot. One other aspect that isn't written out in detail in the directions for each module, the reason I made this video is because in your journals, I want you to teach me, basically. Okay, in any part of the journal, whether it's in the strengths, the areas for improvement part of your journal, or the insights part of your journal, I need you to teach me a math concept that you learned in this module, or a math concept that you already knew, that you used in this module, or a concept that wasn't in the module but you found it because of the module, because you were doing research for the module and you learned something new in your insights and you can explain that to me. I need you to explain it to me step by step by step by step, and I want 2 of these in each journal. So I want you to go step by step by step by step, giving me details. Use your own words. Don't just copy and paste from the internet, of course. And also, one thing that helps a lot of students is that I want you to say it like you're teaching it. Here's a sample. I want you to just pause on the screen so you can read this. I'm not going to just sit here for, for a minute while you read it. So just pause for a sec. Okay, did you read this student's journal? Now you've unpaused it, you've read it. What do you think the pros are for this journal? Everybody's going to have their own ideas. What I noticed right away was that the student used the SII model. They went 1, 2, 3 very clearly: strengths, areas for improvement, and insights. There you go. Another good thing about this was that the student used personal reflection. The student used their own words, and they went through and they were very clear about what they did to some degree. And the student used an appropriate content for the journal. It was a math module, of course. They were describing their work in the math and graphing skills assignment that they had for that week, which you'll be doing, I think, next week or the week after. And it's appropriate. This is appropriate content for the module. It's not some unrelated thing about their dog or cupcakes or something. It's about the math module. Just the facts, ma'am. That part I really like. Okay, the cons. Let's face it. It's fluff. It doesn't really prove that the student learned anything in the class. It shows that they at least looked at the questions. It shows that that's really all it shows. It shows that they know what the questions were about, I think. I'd have to go back and check that. And that's it. It doesn't really show what they learned. The person is saying that they learned a lot. The person is saying that they did a lot of work, but it doesn't show that. It doesn't prove it. I need you to prove it in your journals. And to prove it, you're going to prove it with 2 detailed explanations, step by step by step, of 2 different math concepts, or 2 different processes you went through that were math related. Maybe using software, and you explain how you use the software. That's fine too. Here's another sample. I want you to pause here. I'm not going to sit here while you read it. So pause your computer and read this for me, if you could, please. Okay, you read it, you're unpaused, great. We got to move to the next slide. Okay, so the student is still writing, continued. Okay, did you pause it and read it? We'll go to the next slide, just one more. Okay, you paused it and read it. You're unpaused now. I believe that's the end. So what are the pros? What's good about this? Well, for one thing, it is detailed. Okay, we can't deny that. Lots of detail. It went on for 3 slides. And I consider that a good amount of detail. I consider this student to have done a very, very detailed, let's use the word long, very long journal entry, I would say, for this one. It explains one math concept step by step by step. You'll notice adding fractions using common denominator. And I think it was pretty clear. I'd have to read it again, honestly. I think it was pretty clear. The student clearly learned something, and I think the student really tried to write it out in a way that worked for them, that they understood. So the student used clear language for that student. It showed that they went through the process. It's not just gobbledygook, I don't think. I have to read it again. But I think they really went through the process of learning how to add fractions, and they at least gave this one example here. Okay, cons? Is it too long? You can say that. Maybe it is too long. It's a strength if you can make these journal entries more succinct. I would never penalize somebody for going on too long with their journal, as long as they're fulfilling all the content that they need to, and as long as I can get through it. You know, it's not ridiculous. So I don't know. You might think it's too long. You might be reading it and say, I could take out something here, I could take out something there, and that's great. That's good writing. That's being clear. And it only explains one math concept. So would this person have to go on even longer to fit my expectation? Yeah, kind of. In this case, I probably wouldn't penalize the student too much for only doing one math concept because they use so much detail. But I do want a second math concept. So that brings us back to the first point. Maybe try to organize your thoughts a little bit so that you can write less and say more. So why am I making you do this in your journals? I mean, they're your journals. It's not fair that I'm giving you this formula that I want you to write out 2 math concepts step by step, is it? Well, writing is thinking. It's important and it's valuable to take the time to write out what you're learning. And that's the whole point of these journals. Also, I mean, come on, you don't have to go to class. So you don't have to drive to a classroom and listen to a lecture for a long time. Instead, it's your words, it's what did you learn, and what's your thinking. And also, it's all I've got to prove that you're doing the work, like I mentioned earlier. This is not a traditional classroom setting where I can look over your shoulder and see that you're working or see that you've shown up and raised your hand in class. This is showing me that you know how to do it. Also, let's be real again. This is our substitute for any really challenging math that you have to do. You'll notice that your grade in this course does not really go up or down a whole lot based upon your actual math skills. It goes up or down based upon your math learning and your math developing and what you have proven to me you have done each week. And not how difficult it is, but what you've done, how you've grown, and that you've shown that you've grown by articulating these thoughts to me in your journals. Thanks for watching, and I wish you luck with the course.